current status of Native Hawaiian health, unfortunately, is not much different. In fact, in some areas, maybe a little worse than it was in 1985 for many reasons, and I'll share more about that. But we certainly have seen some improvements, especially around infant mortality and other areas. Of course, Native Hawaiians are living longer, along with every other population ethnic group. Unfortunately, we still die, our longevity is 10 years shorter than those of other ethnic groups on average, and we also get disease 10 years younger. So unfortunately, not much has changed. In fact, perhaps the risk for cardiovascular disease and diabetes might have increased. Right now, 1 in 3 Native Hawaiians are likely to have diabetes, which is very concerning because diabetes can also lead to other medical issues such as cardiovascular disease and so forth. And you know, although the smoking rates have gone down slightly across all ethnic groups because of public health initiatives and laws that have been put in place to make it more challenging to be a smoker, unfortunately, although other ethnic groups have decreased their number of smokers, our Native Hawaiian community hasn't, unfortunately, responded to those initiatives in the same way, and we still continue to smoke at higher rates than other groups. And what's interesting is our Native Hawaiian women smoke more than our Native Hawaiian men, at least tobacco use. So we still see some of the same health challenges. We still see a lot of inequities in chronic diseases compared to other ethnic groups in Hawaii. So in short, we are more likely to get these diseases 10 years younger, as well as unfortunately also pass away 10 years younger than other ethnic groups. You know, and also the question becomes, what are the underlying factors driving these health inequities? You know, often we focus on biomedical and solutions, as well as addressing lifestyle issues, behaviors, right? And we spend a lot of our resources to address what I call Band-Aids, Band-Aid approaches. At the time that, you know, at that point, a lot of our folks already have disease. And so it really becomes a disease management rather than a disease prevention strategy. And unfortunately, a lot of our resources, both here in the state, federally as well, go towards biomedical solutions, especially in public health initiatives. But when you really look at the bigger picture and you look at all the different factors that could contribute to one's risk for disease, social, environmental factors, much more has a greater effect or impact than genetic, biological, or behavioral factors that we often tend to focus on. So if we really need to address, in order to address Native Hawaiian health, improve and prevent these issues, we really have to go upstream and really look at the political, the environmental, the social factors that are really driving these health inequities. If you look at the political perspective, you know, do our legislation, do our policies reflect the Hawaiian values? Are they sensitive to Hawaiian issues? I always say, if we're too busy as Hawaiians protesting for our rights, for our way of life, if we're too busy fighting, we're too busy not thriving. We can't thrive. We're always in action mode, stressed. And stress is a contributor to disease risk, especially chronic diseases. And so, you know, every generation we have our challenges to be Kanaka. You know, before it was Kaho'olawe, it was Kalama Valley, Sand Island issues. Now our generation right now is Mauna Kea, for example. You know, where our sacred places, our ancestral homelands, places we consider sacred, but also a strong part of our identity and who we are, and our ability to malama aina and aloha aina, which is our ancestral responsibility. Another issue again is the cultural. We need to be able to access our cultural institutions and resources. We need to be able to live as Kanaka, in our ways, so that we can thrive and be healthy. People confuse our culture as a risk factor for our health problems because they'll see us eating Spam and all things. But I remind them that's not our culture. The Spam's from Minnesota. That's somebody else's culture. It's a culture of poverty. We're forced into that position. But if you look at the food our ancestors ate and the foods that we want to promote as Kanaka, it's very healthy. In fact, it's a way for us to be in touch with our spirituality, with our ancestors. And you know, you only put into your body that is worthy of putting at the altar. And so I think our cultural practices, our values, our worldviews are very much in line with healthy living. And I do think it's going to be the thing that moves us forward And one example right now that we're doing with the Department of Native Hawaiian Health is using hula, our traditional dance, as a health promotion strategy. We're looking at it to address hypertension management in Native Hawaiians with the idea that we can prevent heart disease. Because as you know, high blood pressure is a risk factor for heart disease. And what we're finding right now in our preliminary studies is that hula can be very effective in helping people with hypertension manage their hypertension. And we're currently doing a more definitive study. We hope to show that in addition to that, we can also reduce the 10-year risk for heart disease for Native Hawaiians. And in addition to that, to show exactly how does that work? Because I think it's more than just the physical aspect. It is the spiritual, the social connection you get from dancing hula and being a part of that group. It's not just the activity itself, but it's everything else that comes with it. The cultural practice, the language, the mele, and so forth, and the connection to each other and place. So I think those are the strategies we need to look towards.
Hawaiian mana'o on health is not an individualistic thing. It is very family oriented. You don't target the individual. The individual is a focus, but you're really targeting the whole. And that's important to understand. That's a very different take on Western and Hawaiian. It's very inclusive. Understanding that, yeah, you can heal the individual, but when he returns back into a home that is sickly or problematic, it's going to be very hard for him to hold that line of maintaining health. So our practices will survive as we target those models that make us who we are. As healers, we must understand what is happening to us in this community, but we must be fearless in taking on the policies, the challenges that face us. And we must be keen. We must have the grit to stand the wave of really a society whose health practices exclude us from that model. There is a huge need in the community. There's no doubt. If you're a practitioner in the healing practices, whether it's la'ao, ho'oponopono, lomi, laukai, whatever it is, aipono, you know there's a problem, a larger problem in our community, and there is a huge need. And that forces, in some ways, that's forcing us to take whatever we can, because you know that there's a huge demand there. You have practitioners, and I understand. I understand why they're in that space, but you have practitioners who do not engage at all, do not engage the Western system, what they do, and what they do in their own space, in their own house, their garage, whatever they're doing, whether it's teaching or whether it's practicing, it's very quiet. The important thing is being done. To me, I can understand it in that context, that at least it's being done. That tradition is carrying on. Whether they're passing it on or if they're not, that's a concern of mine. Because what we're starting to see is there's a huge drop where you look at kupuna with certain amount of ike that they're just passing away, you know. And so with that goes a lot of ike, a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom. And so it's our generation. We got to be real conscious of that.
A kahuna was a person that was the most knowledgeable in something. Not only that, though, they knew the prayers and the rituals in order to access the gods, to assist them in their work. So for those kahuna that were for the health of the people, whether they be for children delivery, whether it is for medicine, whether it's for massage, lomi, whether it is for broken bones, all of these people were the best in what they did. They studied from small kid time, from when they were young, until they matured under a master. That is Hawaiian learning, under a master. But they also knew the prayers and the rituals in order to access the gods to assist their work.
And so traditionally our kahunahaha are the ones that performed that really, really high elevated level of knowing, of deduction, so that when they knew what the ma'i was, then they could refer their patient to the proper practitioner for the course of healing then to begin, right? So part of what I look at is, so for example, if it's a ma'ikino, right? So this is a physical ailment to our body that doesn't have a spiritual origin. When I think of ma'ikino, right, it ties back to then our practices of Lomi Lomi, right? So it's that practice of Lomi Lomi, and it's balancing and the realignment and the reconnecting of our three piko is able to get us to that point of then we're treating that ma'ikino, right? So that's one area that we are able to really classify.
Where Lomi is, if you're looking at the traditional practice, the healing art of Lomi, it's a healthy one right now. The work is being taught, the traditions are being cultivated. You still have families, particularly on Maui, I know of one, still under the radar, very quiet, nobody, they don't teach outside of their family, and I aloha that.
It's one of those practices to me where that physical manipulation of, our bones and our deep tissue and our muscles and our tendons, there's something really powerful about the realignment of our kino in our body. And so that's something that I've really witnessed in, say, maybe the past 10 years, just a massive resurgence in Lomi Lomi. Not only its use, but also the amount of practitioners that I have seen, really intently training and gaining that knowledge from different kumu, from different pa, right? It's one of those ones that I can see is really on this incline, and we're rebuilding our numbers of Lomi Lomi practitioners. So another example is, so when we think of la'au lapa'au, so there's another kama'aina term it's ma'imavaho, right? So the origin of those imbalances come first and foremost from, it's coming from a spiritual place. And so when I think of our deities, so when I think of Mauliola, when I think of Lonopuha, when I think of Ma'iola, right? These are names of our patrons of these healing arts that they had their own values and belief systems. They had their own expertise that then the kahuna drawed from, that then healed, that I think are really a part of what we're trying to rebuild and reconnect and revitalize in present day. So when I think of, la'au lapa'au and the ma'imavaho, it's not just about the spiritual illness, but it's not also just about the plant, right? So it's about the connection of that plant is a kino lau of those akua, of Mauliola, of Lonopuha, of Ma'iola, right? Of Ku, of Hina, right? We can go on and on and on. That plant's embodiment then is our connection to be able to draw from their mana and their strength, their resilience over time of generation of millennia for us to continue to heal from today.
I think it's important to recognize within our practices, ho'oponopono, to me, right now, in our time, that is an important one because it's not a treatment. It seeks out to heal the individual of the unseen things that we have been handed and that we continue to hold on to. And until somebody can come in sometimes, because Ho'oponopono was a family tradition. It was not necessarily something you looked outside of your home. It was something cultivated in the home. But when you see what has happened to our families over centuries at this point, our family units are fragmented. They have lost some of these traditions of healing within the home, you know. Ay kiolo makahali. No, go look outside your house for a healer. But your healing is, you should have one in your own house. You go look to your grandparents to help ho'oponopono the family. But those pillars, again, we've lost them. We either put them in an old folks' home or we have them in our home and we don't know how to interact with them. They come a different generation. We don't understand wisdom. But we must reincorporate them into what that family unit is again. And they help bring enlightenment, wisdom, guidance for us to move forward. And if they cannot, that's the only time you look outside for that kahuna to step in and to help resolve the issues within the family. And sometimes can take years. But we have to realize it took centuries for us to get like this. We wasn't always like this. And that's, as Kanaka, as a society, as a non-Hawaiian, they must understand that. This is important. Our people must understand. Our people and people that come here to live here must understand what you're looking at in a statistic, at a number. Or when you look at who coming into your hospital, who you arresting, you gotta put it into context, into context that this was not always the case. My proof is in the pudding when you go read what Captain Cook was seeing when he came here. He saw healthy, vibrant people. How do we go from that to this now? There are various things that mo'ohihia, there are historical traumas that continue to plague us. And I say plague us as native peoples, period. Colonialism has done that to us, you know. And so we must recognize that that's part of it, but we must take ownership of ours now. Now that you know this, you get some work to do. No wait for them to come and fix you. Seek out your kupuna. Seek out these healers that are being restored, rebuilt in our communities, and bring those ho'oponopono practitioners into your home and begin to heal. No wait. It's on us. That's our responsibility. When I say meet halfway, that's it. You know, we must take the steps to say, hey, our family need help. And even if we think we health, you know, again, you can, we're more healthy than that family. That's not it. It's get healthy so you can help them and help others and continue to build the mana in your family. It's about mana, you know. If you don't understand mana, then you kind of just drifting in the wind as a Kanaka. It is critical for us to reclaim that. That begins our healing process, is understanding what drives us as Hawaiians. When you look at everything that we are as Hawaiians, that is the key, that is the mole. When you talk about go back to the root, that's it, mana. Rediscover that belief system again, that concept that drove our people to be the most literate. It was about mana, you know. They were the healthiest, they were eating the most healthy food because it was about mana. It wasn't just food. That food was a manifestation of the akua. It had mana. If I eat that, I go and get mana, you know. So while we feed ourselves with stuff that have no mana, a lack of mana, well, you just have no clue what mana is. Oh well. That's why we're sick. That's why we struggle.